All right, we're back for One True Podcast 2022. I don't know how many seasons this has been, but I'm sure this is going to be our best season yet. We're joined by our good friend Jerry Hill. Jerry, good to see you, of the Baylor Bear Insider.
Gentlemen, we having a good day?
Doing well. And we're just going to call him a voice in the darkness. John Werner is with us, having some technical difficulties with the video, but John will be happy to chime in. Hopefully our friend Wynn Emmons can maybe I'll just put like John's face and plastered it on.
He'll know what to do.
He'll know what to do. That's right. Well, guys, at long last, we have football. Big 12 football actually starts tomorrow, as we record this podcast on a Wednesday. But Baylor will open up Saturday at home against the University of Albany, UAlbany, as they like to be referred to. Bears, of course, are the Big 12 preseason favorites for the first time in program history. So for that to sort of play out and actually happen, for Baylor to live up to that prediction, what needs to happen? What would you say, Jerry?
Oh, I think there's a couple of key things. I mean, obviously, health is a big part. Blake Shapen only has 2 starts under his belt. Nobody behind him has any. Well, I say that. Luke Anthony, the third team guy, has gotten about 32 starts, but not at this level. So Louisiana Tech transfer. But I think Blake needs to stay healthy. And then, I think somebody needs to emerge at running back and receiver. I feel really good about the defense, but I think the offense, for it to really click the way Jeff Grimes would like it to, I think you need to see, a couple of those receivers really step up. And then whether it's Tay McWilliams, Quaylon Jones, whoever it is, Richard Brice, I really like him. One of those guys needs to kind of come out of the pack and be the guy.
What do you think, John?
Yeah, I agree with Jerry. Tay McWilliams is a big key. We talked to him yesterday. He sounds really confident. He says he's kind of a combination of both Abram Smith and Treston Ebner, which would be a pretty good combination for one guy. So he sounds really confident, that he can do the job. I think Dave will probably use several running backs tomorrow or Saturday. We'll see if Craig Squirrel Williams, Dave sounded like he's healthy at Monday's press conference. He's obviously has a history of knee injuries, so we'll see if he can stay healthy. We'll see if Josh Fleeks plays a role there as kind of that explosive guy. Jerry mentioned Richard Brice. He's a freshman, and he might play some. Who knows? But yeah, and those receivers, I'm really interested to see Hal Presley, the transfer from Auburn. He sounds like he could be a big factor. He's got some speed, he's got some size. But Baylor's receiving room, I wouldn't be that worried about it. They always come up with good receivers. I think they've got a good group this year that just haven't played a whole lot. And Monterey showed what he could, the speed he had in the Sugar Bowl anyway, on that 48-yard touchdown run. So I think it's going to be pretty fun. Although, I don't know how much you can really tell going against an FCS opponent, but it'll be fun to see what they look like.
Yeah, you guys mentioned Richard Brice. I had actually kind of forgotten about him. That's why you guys are out there every day. But dude was a stud in high school. Now, obviously, it's a big jump going from playing for Belleville High School on Friday nights to playing Big 12 football games on Saturdays. But I remember he played some of our local teams around here a few times in high school, Cameron Yo and stuff. And had some huge games, just like 6-7 touchdowns, ridiculous. I feel like, every even year, it's always a little tougher just because the schedule breaks, against Baylor in some of the tougher games. They go to OU, to Texas. They got to go to West Virginia. Obviously, a non-conference game at BYU this year, which doesn't really affect the Big 12 race, but it's going to be tough. At the same time, I remember this summer when I was like doing the Big 12 preseason media poll, looking at just what everybody else had coming back and comparing it to kind of what Baylor had coming back. I ended up picking Baylor, and I didn't really go into that thinking I would, but I mean, they do have a nice collection of guys back, even losing Petrie and Bernard and JT Woods and, some of the other studs that they lost. So I think it's going to be a fun year, and maybe, maybe it's not, 11, 12 wins, but maybe it doesn't have to be. I don't know. So one of the things Dave Aranda talked about this week in his press conference on Monday is just wanting to establish an identity in the opener. That was one of the objectives. He wants to get out of week one. Obviously, your identity is kind of revealed over time, over the course of a season. But if you guys were sort of guessing today what the identity of the 2022 Baylor Bears would be, I mean, what would you think that would look like?
Oh, I would say defensive oriented team. Yeah, I think that's the strength of the team. And obviously they should be very good up front, both sides of the ball. That defensive line really has tremendous depth, with Apu, Jackson Player, TJ Franklin, Gabe Hall, several other guys. So, that was a big question mark coming into last year. This year, it's the strength of the defense. And, Dylan Doyle, a great leader at linebacker. I think the secondary, even though they had to replace some guys, they've still got a lot of talent there. So I think it's going to be kind of a defensive team. I think they want to establish the run like they did last year and probably become a more accurate passing team with Blake Shapen in there.
Yeah, I think particularly early, it's going to be about defense, just because there's, again, so many kind of question marks on offense. So I look for it to be led at least early by the defense. I think the offense wants to be a little more dynamic. Certainly they want to run the ball. That's just part of this offense. But I think that's why Blake Shapen won the job. He's got a little more dynamic element about him. He can get the ball down the field. So that's what I would look at is being a little more dynamic on offense. And I think they'll be just as good, a very physical defense, maybe not the playmakers that they had last year, but I think it'll be a very physical defense.
Yeah, John, you mentioned Monterey Baldwin earlier, and if you're talking about dynamic, I feel like that guy has dynamic potential. Mm-hmm. We saw it in the bowl game. There's a guy in the NFL, Deebo Samuel, who plays for the 49ers, who last year they lined him up as a running back. They lined him up as a receiver. I feel like Monterey has that sort of like multi-dimensional type of capability. He would be a guy, if you're looking to have a dynamic offense, I'd put it in his hands a lot, mm-hmm. just because I feel like he could burn, a lot of guys with his speed. So let's look around the Big 12 a little bit. Down in Austin this week, the Texas Longhorns created a little hubbub for something that they did not do. And that was that Steve Sarkisian opted to not put out a depth chart prior to the season opener against Louisiana-Monroe. And then it came out that they don't really plan to put out a two deep all season long. Now, obviously, people will watch the games and they'll see who's playing and all of that. So I guess they could kind of make one up themselves. you two have covered Baylor football a collective 1,000 years. What do you think? Is this a big deal, or is it like much ado about nothing?
Well, I think, go ahead,
Yeah,
Jay.
go ahead, John.
Well, I think you ought to put out a depth chart that has like Vince Young and Ricky Williams on it and just see how people react.
Yeah. Earl Campbell.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, Tommy Novus. Yeah, just make it a really good one.
This is going off the rails a little bit, but you guys know Ed Trocum, Sean Trocum's husband, has coached a lot of different places here in town. Sometimes he would call in junior high games to the Trib, and he would, for the other team who he didn't have their names, he'd be like Opie Taylor, and Barney Fife, and
Lloyd Lawson.
So I don't know. You're right. Maybe that's what UT should do.
No, I think it's really bizarre. I mean, are you just trying to hide stuff? Are you a little embarrassed? Or are you not sure about your guys? It's very strange.
Jared?
Yeah, the thing I look at in this is sometimes when you release a depth chart, you hurt some feelings, that kind of thing. I mean, like if you've got a hot shot high school running back, like we talked about Richard Reese. Well, if Richard Reese is 7th on the depth chart, which he wouldn't be on the depth chart, but if he's that far down, then maybe you hurt feelings. I don't know. It is bizarre. I don't know that I've ever seen this. It seems like a Bill Belichick thing to do, just kind of, it may have no meaning other than I just don't want to give you the information. But yeah, it is different. And like you said, I mean, particularly a game or two in, everybody's going to figure it out. I did wonder, like, we're all used to the flip card and looking at that, like so you're going to have one teams and then a blank one for Texas at their home games. I don't know. I mean, that will be weird.
That would be weird. You mentioned Belichick. You almost have to wonder if it's the influence of Gary Patterson, who certainly was a little more covert in the way he did things. He certainly limited who could talk to the media and that kind of thing. So, maybe it's Gary's influence. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll blame it on GP.
Yep. All right. So most of the Big 12 teams should have probably lopsided wins on their ledger after week 1. There's a lot of FCS or just 20-point favorite kind of games. The team that does have the toughest road to a win is West Virginia, who as mentioned earlier plays number 7 Pitt in what they call the backyard brawl. That's on Thursday night. Pitt is a 7.5-point favorite in this one. So what's the likelihood that the Mountaineers spring the upset here?
Oh, I'm going to say unlikely, but it will be interesting. They got a transfer quarterback named JT Daniels. He's kind of like Charlie Brewer. He's been pretty much all over the country playing. He was at USC, then he was at Georgia, and now he's at West Virginia. So, I mean, he's a talented guy. We'll see how he does in his first start. That'll be a tough game on the road for those guys.
Jerry?
Yeah, it's interesting. Both starting transfer quarterbacks, Keaton, Slovis, actually both starting guys that started their career at USC. I didn't even know that until I started doing a little research that both of the guys started at USC and started as freshmen. So these are very talented quarterbacks that are going against each other. Pitt's the defending ACC champ. I mean, they did lose some. They lost a great receiver to USC, but again, they've got a USC quarterback coming in. I think Pitt is the better team, and this will be a tough first game for West Virginia, but I think JT Daniels gives you a chance. That's a guy that, like John said, he's got a lot of experience. He started at both USC and Georgia. He was the starter, I guess, at the start of last year and then got hurt, but he was part of that national championship team last year. So it should be an interesting game. Yeah, that'll be a fun one to watch for sure.
Yeah,
Hey,
I mean it's kind of a rivalry. I mean, even though they haven't always played, but yeah, it should be a fun game. And you mentioned that, Jerry, that they were the ACC defending champions, Pitt. Of course, they had Kenny Pickett,
Right.
who's now playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So he was a big part of that for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Jerry, was that a trade with USC? Are there players to be named later?
Well, they got the great receiver.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what West Virginia would have given up, but yeah, that's an interesting one that both guys started out at USC.
So before we get to what I always kind of call culinary corner, we usually always talk about food at the end, but I kind of want to throw in a little bonus question here for you guys. So this came out today that the Big 12 is opening up media negotiation talks. Fox, ESPN, this is early. That could be talking as early as next week. What's your reaction? It feels like kind of a big deal.
I think it's huge. I mean, obviously, I think you kind of want to strike while the iron's hot a little bit, with what the Big Ten was able to do and maybe kind of get ahead of some of the other conferences. So I think that's probably what UAlbany is trying to do, is kind of get ahead of maybe some of the other conferences and coming off the heat of the Big Ten, their unbelievable contract. So I think that's kind of what you're trying to do. And it'll be interesting because, obviously you're factoring in that you're losing two of your, kind of brand teams after this year or a couple of years down the road, whatever. But you're losing a couple of those brand names. But if they're negotiating now and man, they're in a good spot, I think, right now.
Yeah, I wonder if any news will come out about Texas and OU, if they're going to leave in the next year or what.
This could speed up that timeline for sure.
It kind of seems that way, but yeah, the timing's interesting. But I think Brett Yormark, he seems like he wants to kind of prove he's on the ball and just kind of ahead of the game a little bit. And I mean, we'll see what else is coming from the little drummer boy.
Yes, Johnny's stealing my lines.
Little drummer boy.
I used that one in a column, and John liked it. Little drummer boy. He had a garage band. That was something that came out on media days. That Yormark was an old garage band guy. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I do feel like it's a big deal. And here in the age of realignment, I mean, it kind of helps to have all your ducks in a row, right? And so if you can get, your media contract sort of taken care of, then, I think that just creates a little more stability, solidarity, even in the age of craziness, I mean, I just feel like if you have that in place, that gives everybody a little more, they're able to kind of sigh and have that relief. So mentioned Big 12 Media Days. We were all there for that, which means we were part of the great beef jerky eating competition of 2022. So the Big 12 partnered with Old Trapper Beef Jerky as a sponsor. And meanwhile, Old Trapper hooked up the media, everyone that was there, basically with a lot of free beef jerky. I know John and I came away with multiple bags. What were you going to say, John?
Yeah, I definitely partook. It got me through my hiking vacation.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I think I ate my weight in beef jerky over that 2 days. So my question is this. If you were able to have like a dream sponsor of the Big 12 conference that would like supply us with free goodies, who would that be?
I'm going to go with Franklin barbecue.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know,
Austin's not going to be part of the Big 12 much longer.
Well, they can cater. They should bring it up to the press box, where you wouldn't have to like go down there and wait in the parking lot for 4 hours.
Yes.
With an umbrella and you're baking. No, I think it'd be fantastic. I think that might even surpass Gatesville for a press box.
Yeah,
food.
that's true. If you had Franklin barbecue in the UT press box, that'd be a home run.
I'm talking bringing it up here.
I like it.
Yeah.
Jerry?
Well, I didn't want to steal your thunder. I figured you might go with Bluebell. So I was going to stay away from that. Brenham's best, but I would not say no to that. But I kind of went Waco, so I'm going to go with M&M March.
Yeah.
You think about all the different candy that they make. Man, you're talking about eating your weight in food. I could do that, man, with all the stuff that they make. So I'm going to go with M&M Mars. Let's keep it local.
Yeah, I like that. Jerry has a sweet tooth like I do.
Yes, yes, I do.
Jerry, gave it away, but I'm going to stay on brand and say Bluebell. Certainly, that was a staple at Floyd Casey Stadium when Baylor played over there. They always had the Bluebell cooler. I always partook. And so, yeah, I mean, we never run out of it here at the Cherry household. Put it that way. We have multiple half gallons of Bluebell on hand.
Brice, do you have a favorite?
I do. I mean, I have a top 5, but probably a top 10. But my favorite is definitely, without a doubt, cookies and cream. I love
good stuff. Yeah.
They invented cookies and cream, Bluebell did.
Okay.
Wow.
And then Oreo actually came out with its own version.
Yeah.
And so for a while, Bluebell was using this is your Bluebell history lesson of the day. They were using a different kind of like Oreo cookie, like an off-brand sandwich cookie. But I think nowadays, in 2022, it's back to Oreo. So
nice.
It's really good. Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, it'll be good to see y'all at the game on Saturday. Also, let's just take a moment and also say it'll be a little different not having Dave Campbell at the Baylor game. Certainly he'll be in our hearts and minds. I thought it was really cool that Baylor's going to leave a seat open for him. That's cool. Jerry, did you have any influence on that?
I did a little bit. I mean, I kind of took it from, what the Sugar Bowl did. And actually maybe 2 years ago, year or two ago, we did the deal with Butch Henry as well. So it was kind of from that, but I think it'll be cool. They'll have a little framed picture there. And I know at least for this first game, they'll have flowers, but it's his spot, all year. So I think it's cool. I think it's a great way to remember, all of our favorite sports writer of all time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
That'll be cool.
Great tribute.
There'll be lots of pictures of that seat, I imagine, on Saturday on social media. So cool stuff. All right. Well, we'll see you guys at the game. Jerry, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Gentlemen, enjoyed it. This was fun.
All right.